What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 17th, 2022. Good win for the Sixers last night. They beat the Warriors 118-106. Obviously, the Warriors were shorthanded. However, it wasn't pretty, but they came out and did what they needed to do. Joe had, I think, 34 points. Harden had 27. I liked D'Anthony Melton a lot. I just the way he passes, like he's a good addition to this team. Once he's been playing good minutes and getting into that groove. So once Tyrese comes back in a couple weeks, it should be hopefully Doc has his rotations kind of set up for him. They're on a nice little winning streak right now. I want to continue to see this going, and hopefully the worst is behind them and they're on the up and up and playing. And it was funny because I watched the interview with Doc before the game last night on ESPN, and basically they asked him about just the I forget how I think it was Jalen Rose asked the question. I forget exactly how he worded it, but basically it's like, hey, do you feel the pressure because this team hasn't been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001 or something along those lines. And of course, Doc gave his dumbass smug answer what he does. That has nothing to do with us. And I mean, yeah, I get it. You weren't here. He was like, I was in Boston then. And I get it. And I think that's one of those things where fans get pissed off, right or wrong. It's like, you know what? Just say, yeah, I'm trying to do this for the fans. Even if you're not, just throw it out there. Don't be so smug. Don't be a dumbass about it. And he basically, I mean, other than that, he said the right things. He's like, our goal is to win the championship. We want to do this. We have the players to do it. We have this. We have that. And he was sticking up for Harden a little bit, and everything was good. And then he just again, like he talked like he's like that guy that talks 2 minutes too long and says something stupid. Come on, Doc. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overly sensitive to him. Maybe I'm overly sensitive about Philly fans, but it just, man, like, shut the fuck up, Doc. Like, it has nothing to do with us. We weren't here. Like, I'm not concerned with the history. And it's like, dude, just say, yeah, we're trying, or acknowledge, like, yeah, it's been a long time. We'd love to get back there for the fans or something, and just don't blow it off like that. Like, it was a softball question, and you whiffed, dude. You whiffed. And let me know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just overly annoyed with Doc, and I'm just sick of him. But it just seemed like a very smug thing. If you can, maybe go back and watch it. It was on the pregame show, and I'm pretty positive it was Jalen Rose asking the question. And again, I can only hear some of it, but it had something to do with the way, something about the Eastern Conference Final, and he has nothing to do with it. I was like, shut up, dude. Anyway, Flyers back in action tonight. Temple will play Ole Miss tonight. Be sure to check out Back to the Future if you haven't already. I discussed what would have happened if the Eagles had moved to Phoenix back in 1984, which I believe today is the anniversary of when it was official that they were staying, when everything was officially announced and into place. So would have been like, I couldn't imagine, and I guess it would have been different back then because of not having the 24-hour news cycle that we have now in Twitter and social media. But I imagine it was a very stressful, just not knowing what was happening and not necessarily having access to find out what was happening. But I'm pretty sure this was because I believe this was the day of the game. So after the game, it's kind of when everything was sort of settled down. Monday morning, everything was into place. The Eagles were staying. I guess Toast was working on. So be sure to give that a listen. And like I said yesterday, there's a lot of just layers and things to that whole situation that I wasn't even aware of. Wilson Good came out the hero almost. So be sure to check that out, like and subscribe. But we're going to stay with Temple today, and we're going to go back to 2011, so not that long ago in the 11 years. It doesn't seem like it was 11 years ago. But on this day, December 17th, 2011, Temple beat Wyoming 37-15 in the New Mexico Bowl. Now, this was Temple's second bowl game in 3 years, their fourth overall, at least at that time. And it was their second bowl win ever. They had won the 1979, I think it was the Garden State Bowl, I believe. And then they were in the Sugar Bowl back in the 30s, which I'll probably talk about in a couple weeks on New Year's Day. But the New Mexico Bowl that year, that was Bernard Pierce had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matt Brown had a touchdown. Rod Streeter had a 61-yard bomb that he caught. Brandon McManus, Denver's own and fantasy reliable kicker for the Denver Broncos, added 3 field goals that day. He probably was he had the most successful career out of anybody on that team. But it was Steve Addazio's first year. They went 9-4. They took second in the MAC East. And Addazio, I forgot, was only there for 2 years. And then it led into Matt Rule and what I would call probably the golden era of Temple football. But some notable games that season, they lost to Penn State only 14-10. I remember they were in that game thinking that they had a shot to finally beat them. They beat Maryland. Pierce was on. That was the year after his Heisman push. But he had a great year that year. He had 1,481 yards, 27 touchdowns. Just a great season for Bernard Pierce. He would go on to play for Baltimore, and I forget the other team he played for, but injuries caught up with him. But he did win a Super Bowl with Baltimore, so that good for him. But I just remember, for me, this bowl win meant a lot. Not quite obviously as much as like the Phillies winning the World Series or the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, but for me, like being a huge Temple basketball fan, I wanted to like Temple football. I remember going to a game or two when I was younger at the Vet, and just as I mentioned before, the Miller brothers from Coatesville had played there, so I went down a couple times to see them play on special teams, and I just buying in, like going to Temple as a freshman, and obviously you knew about the basketball team, but wanting to get into the football game, and nobody was just into it. I mean, I remember they were giving away, I had like 8 tickets per game, 10 tickets per game, each home game, that were in my welcome pack as a freshman. And I just remember being blown away, like, oh, I got tickets to every game, like it's awesome. And then realizing that maybe 5,000 people max. And I mean, I think that might even be a stretch for some games, like Miami, Virginia Tech. Those games drew big. Pitt. But it just like I said, like wanting to get into it, and then finally having them get good under Al Golden and being able to go down to that bowl game in D.C., which we'll talk about later next week. Just this meant a lot to me, just to have them like legitimately be able to watch a winning Temple team, first of all, and then to see them playing in a postseason bowl game, even though it was the New Mexico Bowl. And I think was like a very big deal to me. Like Temple won a bowl game. Like, holy shit. Like next to them going to the Final Four, this would be like my holy grail of Temple sports. I think with all the talk of expanding the college football playoff, and it's going to be a 12 team, eventually they said they wanted to get it to 16, I believe. I think they need to keep bowls like the New Mexico Bowl and some of these smaller bowls, because at least for me, it was a huge deal. And like I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because I remember watching it with my buddy Kevin in his apartment over in Roxborough, and just being super excited and just kind of like in shock, like, holy shit, they're going to win a bowl game. So on this day, December 17th, 2011, Temple beat Wyoming 37-15 in the New Mexico Bowl for their second bowl game win ever, the first in my lifetime where I was actually old enough to enjoy it. But lots of big sports going on today. We'll do our Eagles preview tomorrow. Go have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.